I know your social feeds are completely flooded with Gears of War and Doom right now. The showcases were massive, the trailers looked incredible, and honestly, it's a great time to be a gamer. Seriously. Underneath all that Xbox and Summer Game Fest hype, a staggering 14 major titles were just locked in for Switch 2, and a few of these completely flew under the radar. First, Danny will tell you about today's sponsor.
Before we get going, this video is sponsored by Dovetail Games, who are bringing Thomas and Friends Wonders of Sodor to players right now. If you grew up with Thomas and Friends, this one's pretty special because it is a game that lets you experience the island of Sodor, letting you explore iconic routes like Gordon's Main Line, Thomas's Branch Line, and Knapford Harbor. It's designed for fans of all ages, with easy-to-use controls that are super approachable, whether you're new to games or just here for the nostalgia. You can take control of familiar engines like Thomas, Percy, Diesel, Emily, and Gordon, jump into story-driven scenarios with lighthearted mischief, or just free roam around Sodor to explore and grab screenshots. There are collectibles to hunt down, plus a fun shunting minigame if you want a quick challenge. There's also a deluxe edition that adds extra scenarios and lets you play as James the Red Engine. Thomas and Friends Wonders of Sodor is out now on PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, also backwards compatible with Switch 2, plus Steam and Epic Games Store. Check it out by clicking the link in the description.
Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo just dropped a massive announcement. Whoa, Long 2 Wings of Ember is officially real. It's coming in early 2027, and honestly, it's exactly what the dark fantasy action RPG space needs right now. The first game crossed over 5 million players, which is huge for a brand new IP, and Team Ninja is striking while the iron is hot. Now, if you played the first one, you know the vibe. It's the late Eastern Han period, the chaotic Three Kingdoms era, but infused with heavy, grotesque, dark fantasy elements. The subtitle this time is Wings of Ember, and the pitch mentions a phoenix rising from the fires of war as a nameless champion. What's really exciting here is the promise of evolved Chinese martial arts. The first game's deflection mechanics were incredibly satisfying, almost like a rhythm game mixed with Sekiro, but it did feel a bit bare bones in the variety department compared to something like Nioh. Evolving that system is exactly the right move. Look, Team Ninja has a very specific track record. When they made the first Nioh, it was great, but when they made Nioh 2, it was an absolute masterpiece because they took player feedback deep into the combat mechanics and perfected the gameplay. If Wo Long 2 follows that exact same trajectory, giving us deeper weapon variety, more complex magical virtues, and better enemy pacing, this could easily be one of the absolute best action games of 2027.
Delightful biscuit. I'm sure
Capcom just opened up Summer Game Fest with an absolute tactical nuke of an announcement. After years of fans literally begging for it, a ground-up remake of Code Veronica is now real. It's simply titled Resident Evil Veronica. It's targeting a 2027 launch window. If you thought this was just going to be a carbon copy of the Resident Evil 2 or 4 remakes, Capcom is throwing a massive curveball. The biggest thing that has the community talking right now is the perspective. The trailer heavily signals that they are ditching the traditional third-person over-the-shoulder camera for a full-blown first-person view. Think Biohazard or Village, but applied to Rockford Island. Moving through the island's decrepit cells, high-tech underground laboratories, and misty, dense woodlands from a direct claustrophobic point of view makes an already twisted setting feel genuinely terrifying all over again. For the uninitiated, Code Veronica is widely considered by purists to be the true canonical Resident Evil 3 in terms of story weight. It follows Claire Redfield as she hunts for her brother Chris, leading her into an absolute psychological nightmare run by the deeply disturbed Ashford family. Capcom is promising a fully reimagined storyline built on the RE engine that strengthens the connective tissue between the fall of Raccoon City and Umbrella's broader global operations. The trailer even teased fan favorites like Hunk and the legendary Albert Wesker, meaning the campy early 2000s gothic horror is being traded in for pure, unadulterated tension. The track record here speaks for itself, following up on the massive success of Resident Evil 4 Remake and this year's Resident Evil Requiem. Capcom is executing a flawless survival horror roadmap.
Come and get it! Oh shit!
Alright, so if you've spent any time inside a VR headset over the last decade, you know Arizona Sunshine is basically royalty. It's the franchise that practically defined VR zombie slaying. But at the Future Games show, Vertigo Games just dropped a massive news. They are releasing Arizona Sunshine as a completely flat-screen third-person shooter remake. Now, making a VR-exclusive game playable on normal monitors is a massive gamble, but look at the foundation they're working with. You play as Sunny, a dark-humored, incredibly lonely survivor who has spent a little too much time baking in the desert sun, talking to the undead whom he affectionately calls Freds. The heart of the story is his cross-country road trip with his fiercely loyal dog. Buddy, Vertigo Games is rebuilding this entire experience with a traditional over-the-shoulder camera, and honestly, bridging that gap allows a massive audience who gets motion sick or just doesn't own a VR headset to finally experience one of the best buddy comedy apocalypses in gaming. Mechanically, this isn't just a simple camera mod, they've completely retuned the pacing into an over-the-top action game featuring a brutal, limb-severing mutilation and gore system. You've got an arsenal ranging from classic shotguns and machetes to literal flamethrowers. But the absolute best feature, the co-op, the game features full online and local split-screen co-op, and for the first time ever, the second player can actually play as Buddy the dog. You can literally have a friend join your session, run around on four legs, and bite the arms off of charging zombies while you give them fire support.
Combat Regiment, the hybrid battle system established in Remake and refined.
It is finally time to finish the story. At the absolute tail end of Summer Game Fest, Square Enix took the stage to pull back the curtain on the grand finale of their remake project. It is titled Final Fantasy VII Revelation. It's targeting a spring 2027 launch. Now, director Naoki Hamaguchi stated the theme of this game is resolve, and you can see that reflected in the sheer scale of what they are attempting. Revelation is moving into a completely boundless, seamless open world. The trailers showed off the legendary airship, the high wind, and the crazy part. You aren't just using it to fast travel, you can actually fly it anywhere and literally parachute out of the ship mid-flight, dropping down directly into the zones below. We got a peek at the sun-drenched Mideel Archipelago, the massive warrior nation of Wutai, and the freezing wastes of the northern continent where Sephiroth is preparing his final stand. Combat is getting a massive injection of new flavor too. Fan favorites Vincent Valentine and Sid Highwind are completely playable now, bringing lightning-fast gunplay, beastly transformations, and long-range lance strikes to the party, but the absolute biggest mechanical shakeup is a brand new feature called the FIT system, or Function Integrated Tactical Suitwear. This is essentially a classic Final Fantasy job system disguised as gear. Equipping different outfits completely overwrites your character's moveset, turning them into traditional archetypes like a heavy-hitting warrior or a spell-slinging black mage, giving you insane tactical flexibility. The scale here looks unmatched, but the reveal did drop with one massive surprise for the community. Square Enix confirmed that Sephiroth's English voice actor, Tyler Hoechlin, wasn't available for this final chapter, meaning Travis Willingham is stepping into the villain's iconic shoes. Swapping actors at the finish line of a massive trilogy is always a gamble, but mechanically the game looks incredible. The fact that Square Enix is launching this simultaneously across PC, Xbox, and the Switch 2 right out of the gate shows they are throwing everything they have into making this a definitive history-making release for the 30th anniversary of the original 1997 classic. Alright, real quick, we just launched a brand new channel called GameRan. If you want the same coverage, but for all platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, not just the Switch, head down to the description and hit that link. Subscribing over there helps us out immensely as we push for that first 1,000 sub milestone. Seriously, thank you guys. Now let's get right into the next game. It has been 7 long years since Attack on Titan 2 Final Battle dropped back in 2019. But out of absolutely nowhere at Summer Game Fest, publisher Koei Tecmo and developer Omega Force just confirmed that the wait is now over. Attack on Titan 3 is now a reality. Now, the pitch for this sequel is incredibly ambitious. The previous games did a great job adapting the anime, but they stopped right around the end of Season 3. Jeff Keighley introduced Attack on Titan 3 as a project that will allow players to experience the entire epic storyline from its very beginnings in the Survey Corps all the way to its cataclysmic, world-shaking conclusion. Omega Force is folding in the early narrative beats, updating them, and throwing in completely brand new story content to cover the finale. If you want to face down all of the legendary 9 Titans in one massive cohesive package, this is literally the game fans have been begging for. The developers are promising a massive overhaul to the iconic omnidirectional mobility gear. The combat in the previous entries was surprisingly great, capturing that exact feeling of swinging through the air and slicing a Titan's nape at lightning speed. This time, they are promising vastly more intense acrobatic movement, deadlier coordinated squad attacks, and a physics engine built specifically to emphasize the massive, brutal scale of fighting giants. On top of that, launching on the Switch 2 right out of the gate is a genius move, considering the handheld nature of past entries perfectly suited grinding out scout missions on the go. Some people roll their eyes when they hear Omega Force is behind an anime game because they expect a generic Dynasty Warriors clone. But the Attack on Titan series has always been the golden exception to that rule. They completely threw out the traditional Musou gameplay for a momentum-based spatial aerial combat system that genuinely respected the source material. If they can take that core, tighten the precision, and properly scale up the terrifying chaos of the final seasons, this is easily going to be a must-play action title. After literally years of fans tracking every single cryptic tweet, checking financial reports, and basically acting like conspiracy theorists, Activision and Toys for Bob have announced a brand new mainline game, Spyro: A Realm Beyond. Now, if you played the Reignited trilogy, you know Toys for Bob absolutely nails the look and feel of these characters, but A Realm Beyond is a completely fresh start. The premise this time around is that the Dragon Realms are expanding into a shattered multiverse, which gives the developers a perfect excuse to drop us into massive, open-ended levels. We're talking wider sandbox zones, but keeping that tight classic collectathon design. They are introducing what they call elemental essences, meaning Spyro can actively toggle between fire, ice, and electricity on the fly to solve puzzles and traverse the environment. It looks dynamic, and honestly, it's exactly how you modernize a 90s platformer without losing its soul. Look, the reason to get genuinely excited here is the team behind it. Toys for Bob already proved they could create a phenomenal modern sequel when they gave us Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. They know how to respect original physics while making a game feel smooth by modern standards. If they bring that exact same energy and level design philosophy to Spyro, giving us complex glides, rewarding secrets, and a fully realized open sandbox, this could easily be one of the best platformers of the decade. Yes, that is right. After literally 24 years of waiting for a proper new mainline entry, Sega just fully pulled back the curtain on their long-teased reboot at the Xbox Games Showcase. It's called Crazy Taxi World Tour. So what's the deal here? Well, the trailer immediately hits you with that massive wave of nostalgia because yes, The Offspring's All I Want is back on the soundtrack. The core gameplay is intact, but the scope is vastly expanding. You play as the original driver Axel, who goes on a global story-driven campaign across 5 distinct cities to hunt down a mysterious group of international car thieves who stole his beloved taxi. Sega is blending the classic race-against-the-clock arcade mode with a seamless multiplayer layout, and they've added quirky side jobs like delivering towering stacks of pizza boxes and even a fishing mini-game. It's basically everything great about old-school Sega modernized. But because it's the modern gaming industry, this reveal didn't drop without a bit of controversy. Immediately after the trailer went live, fans spotted an AI disclosure on the game's Steam page. Sega openly stated they are using generative AI as a support tool during development to help engineers focus more on creative tasks, though they clarified no AI was used for any of the performers. Now look, while some studios are embracing it behind the scenes for coding or asset workflow, it has immediately divided a lot of the community who want that classic, purely handcrafted Sega artistry. It's an interesting wrinkle in an otherwise hype reveal. We have waited 12 long years for this. While Creative Assembly technically teased that it was happening a while back, they just fully dropped the reveal trailer for Alien Isolation 2 at Summer Game Fest. The original masterpiece worked so well because Sevastopol Station was this perfect self-contained vacuum of retro-futuristic dread. But for the sequel, original creative director Al Hope and the survival team are leaving Sevastopol behind. This time, the story introduces a completely brand new protagonist stranded on a remote, storm-ravaged colony world. The trailer gives us a look at Kurosaki Station, a Weyland-Yutani outpost, but the massive mechanical shift here is that you'll actually have to step out into the elements and navigate the planet's surface. Enduring a harsh, blinding environment while knowing the perfect organism is tracking you is an entirely new level of anxiety. But let's talk about this star of the show, the Xenomorph itself. The first game made history because of its brilliant dual-brain AI system that made the alien feel genuinely alive, unpredictable, and terrifyingly smart for Isolation 2. The developers are promising an even more evolved adaptive behavior engine because the environments are shifting from strict indoor corridors to open, unpredictable outdoor terrain. You're gonna have to improvise completely new tools, techniques, and tactics just to stay one step ahead of a killer that is actively learning how you play. Some fans might be a little bummed out to hear that Amanda Ripley isn't the main focus this time around, but honestly, moving on to a fresh protagonist and a completely new corner of the universe is exactly what this franchise needs to keep the stakes real. So, if you grew up in the early 2000s, there's a very high chance you spent countless weekends huddled around a CRT TV, throwing skyscrapers at your friends. And out of absolutely nowhere, Atari and the original developers over at Pipeworks Studios just announced Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee Remastered. The word remastered in the title is actually doing a bit of a disservice here, because the team isn't just upscaling old textures. They are completely rebuilding the entire game from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5, but the most important part, they're explicitly keeping the exact mechanical fidelity of the 2002 original. You're still getting that glorious arcade-style weight where you control one of 12 iconic kaiju, smash through 8 real-world locations, and weaponize the environment. If you want to grab a military tank or a literal skyscraper and chuck it straight into King Ghidorah's face, you can absolutely still do that. It just looks gorgeous now. What's really cool here is that they're using this release to fix the fractured history of the original game. Back in the day, the Xbox version got exclusive characters like Mechagodzilla 3 that GameCube players missed out on. While everyone was talking about the massive new expansions revealed on stage, Capcom quietly dropped an absolute bombshell at the tail end of their developer message. It is official, Monster Hunter Wilds is currently in development for the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, if you've been following this game since its original launch back in early 2025 on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, your immediate reaction is probably a mix of pure hype and severe anxiety. Let's be real. Wilds is an incredibly heavy game. It completely skipped the original Switch because trying to run those massive seamless ecosystems and dynamic weather shifts on old mobile hardware would have literally turned your console into a smoke machine. But Capcom has spent the last year aggressively optimizing their RE engine, even getting the game to run impressively well on low-spec handheld PCs. The timing of this announcement is incredibly clever. Capcom just used the main SGF stage to reveal Ascendance, a massive Sky Island expansion slated for 2027. Dropping the Switch 2 news immediately afterward, even with just a simple 2-sentence post on X, heavily implies where the timeline is going. While we don't have a release date or performance specs for the Nintendo version yet, it makes perfect strategic sense for Capcom to launch the Switch 2 port right alongside the Ascendance expansion in 2027 as a definitive all-in-one package. Nintendo platforms have always been a primary home for the Monster Hunter community. The 3DS era and Monster Hunter Rise on the original Switch generated massive generation-defining sales numbers precisely because the portable local multiplayer gameplay is addictive. Skipping a Nintendo platform felt like a gaping wound for the franchise.
Once upon a time, in a distant corner.
If you're a fan of beautiful side-scrolling puzzle platformers, Frozen Byte just dropped an absolute treat during the Summer Game Fest season. Trine 6 Together in Time has been announced by publisher Cooldown Games. Now, the biggest shakeup right out of the gate is the roster. Instead of our usual 3 heroes, Trine 6 expands the lineup to 5 playable characters. The story kicks off with a botched heist by 2 young rogues, Moira the acrobat, who uses fluid kick combos and ribbon swinging to get around, and Adrius the squire, who can fight with a spear or plant it into walls to create completely new platforms. They accidentally bind their fates to our classic trio Amadeus, Zoya, and Pontius, and now the whole crew has to team up to stop a dangerous warlock before everything goes completely sideways. Mechanically, Frozen Byte is doubling down on a co-op first design philosophy, supporting up to 4 players either on the couch or through full online crossplay. But don't worry if you're a solo player, they've completely overhauled the puzzle design so that any character can solve them based on how you prefer to play, rather than locking you into specific character requirements. Oh, and every single hero gets access to a brand new time slow ability. This lets you slow down the world around you to time complex jumps, react to sudden enemy threats, or just get some breathing room when things get way too chaotic. Even when a game doesn't wildly reinvent the wheel, they consistently deliver gorgeous, handcrafted fairy tale worlds filled with genuine charm and a brilliant balance of wit and teamwork. Adding 2 completely new character archetypes means the physical puzzle combinations are going to be wilder than ever before. Milestone has been quietly putting out some of the absolute best, most mechanically tight arcade racing games of the last few years with their Unleashed series. But at Summer Game Fest 2026, they completely blew up their own blueprint. Hot Wheels Infinite Rush has just been announced. It is launching on September 24th. And guys, they are taking the franchise fully open world. If you played the previous games, you know the racing was confined to strict tracks winding through giant bedrooms or garages. Infinite Rush completely shatters those walls by dropping you into an expansive sandbox broken up across 4 massive, distinct islands. We're talking about free roaming through a dense, vertical neon metropolis, coastal resorts, lush green parks, and scorching deserts. You aren't just stuck on the classic orange plastic lanes anymore. You can seamlessly smash through physical barriers, explore hidden shortcuts beneath skyscrapers, and hunt for a massive horde of collectibles at your own pace. To handle this kind of terrain, the game is introducing more than 150 vehicles categorized into 4 specific classes, all out for saddles, giant heavy-hitting titans, agile drifters, and pure speeders. The coolest mechanical addition, here's something they're calling the Rush Squad. Instead of locking yourself into one ride for an exploration run, you can build a personal lineup of your favorites and literally swap between vehicle types on the fly to adapt to the terrain. Oh, and die-hard diecast fans. Yes, Ferrari models are joining the roster for the very first time. Progression-wise, each island is ruled by a unique boss known as a Rush Master. You'll tackle on-the-fly events, drift challenges, and stunt tasks to unlock their specific boss trial, defeating them to claim their title and car. Milestone is also overhauling their beloved track builder, letting you snap modules directly to the open terrain and skyscrapers, and you can even program AI pathing to share fully playable custom tracks online. Alright, so if you had Star Trek psychological horror game made by the Silent Hill 2 remake team on your 2026 Summer Game Fest bingo card, you are a liar, because absolutely nobody saw this coming. Paramount Games and Bloober Team just announced Star Trek Shadow Frontier, a mature third-person sci-fi thriller. What makes this project instantly fascinating to any Trek nerd is the protagonist. You're playing as former Lieutenant Ro Laren, the incredibly complex Bajoran officer from The Next Generation and Picard, even better. Michelle Forbes is back to voice and mocap the character. The setup is simple but deeply eerie. Ro responds to a distress call and crash lands on an uncharted planet that is essentially a massive spaceship graveyard. Bloober Team describes it as a corrupted labyrinth, where a strange, malevolent consciousness is actively trying to burrow into Ro's mind, plaguing her with haunting visions and forcing her to face her traumatic past. Mechanically, they are aiming for a mix of survival, puzzle solving, and cinematic set pieces. You'll be navigating this hostile ecosystem using Ro's phaser and her trusty tricorder, which she'll use to analyze clues and bypass environmental hurdles. Coming from Bloober Team, especially right after their incredible work on Silent Hill 2 and Chronos: The New Dawn. You can expect some top-tier, absolutely claustrophobic sound design and gorgeous, terrifying Unreal Engine 5 lighting even on a handheld. Alright, so we knew it was technically in the pipeline, but following a massive delay, From Software and Bandai Namco just dropped the definitive release date. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition is launching on August 28th. Now, let's address the massive fire-breathing elephant in the room. Elden Ring is a gargantuan, incredibly resource-heavy open world. Reports from behind the scenes leaked that early development builds on the hardware were a total 15 frame per second disaster. But From Software has spent the extra development time aggressively troubleshooting the system's ARM CPU bottleneck to deliver a stable locked 30 frames per second. What makes this specific Tarnished edition worth looking at, even if you've already sunk 300 hours into the original, is the package. It bundles the massive base game with the Shadow of the Erdtree expansion right out of the gate for $80. But From Software is also tossing in exclusive brand new content. 4 new armor sets, fresh weapons, and full customization features for Torrent. Yes, you can finally change the appearance of your trusty spectral steed across 3 distinct cosmetic styles. The biggest mechanical shakeup here has to be the introduction of 2 completely new starting classes. Data miners and community threads have already dug into the stats, and we're looking at a heavy knight archetype that starts with high strength and a massive curved greatsword, alongside a highly agile, balanced dexterity class that gives you early game access to a light greatsword moveset. If you enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out one of the videos on screen right now. As always, I'm Cyril, big thanks to the community, and I'll see you on the next video.